All right, today we're going to talk about how I scout public land for the first time. And we're going to mainly go into is hill country, big wooded sections, and timber. I found a piece of public land that I've never been to before. I'm going to e-scout it, and I've already found some things that I like about it. And I'm going to show you kind of how I do things, and then maybe for some of you that want to get some ideas, it might help you out and you might figure out some things that might help you. So first of all, let me tell you the purpose of why I go out with scouting. So a lot of guys, they scout during season while they're hunting, and so they might be going out the very next day or whatever. And if they're doing that, then they're looking for fresh sign, things like that. But I'm scouting for next year. I've already filled my tags, so you might look at things a little bit different if you're scouting for next year or scouting for this year. So the reason, the purpose of why I scout is, number one, I'm looking for places to put cameras because I'm looking for mature bucks, and so I need to see if there's any bucks there that I want to hunt. And then if there's a really, really big buck on that property and I can get a picture of him, then I can focus more on that area and try to learn as much as I can about that area, especially since it's new. I don't know what's there, so I always look for areas to put cameras, scrapes, funnels, pinch points, trails, things like that. Another thing that I look for, and the purpose I go scouting, is to find spots to hunt during the rut, which is also funnels and pinch points with sign that is a good spot for bucks cruising, looking for does. Find good bedding areas where they might go through, and that's places that I can set up during the rut. So if I find a lot of sign in an area that's kind of a pinch point or a funnel, then that'll give me a clue for that next year. I can get in there. Even if I haven't been in there, I can get into that area, set up, and hunt that. So that's another reason why I go scouting, to find the terrain that looks the best that the deer are using. And then also one of the purpose I go out is to find buck bedding and find areas where it looks like bucks have been bedded and in the cover. So that is the main thing that I'm looking for, and the purpose and the reason that I scout is to find those things. Now let's get into what I look for on the map. So there's three things that I look for mainly on the map. There's a lot of different things that you can look for, but there's three main things that I look for on the map. Number one, I look for cover. This is one of the most important things because a lot of bucks, they are going to have some kind of cover around them when they bed. And so if you can find an area that has cover, that is what you want to look for. Now, a lot of times that can be hard to see on a map. You're not going to always be able to see that, but sometimes, like in our area, a lot of times around like cedar thickets, briar patches, things like that, there are high stem counts. There's a lot of trees or a lot of brush like that, or down trees. Sometimes you can see those on the map, and the deer will get in there. And that brings me to the second thing that I look for on the map, and that's clear cuts or timber cuts. And on some public land pieces, especially big forest areas, they'll have people come through and cut a bunch of timber down and do clear cuts or timber cuts, and you can see those easy on the map. You can see where the trees are standing and then where a bunch of them are laying down, and those are amazing because those provide food and browse for the deer to eat, and it also allows cover for them to bed, and so they will bed and they will eat in that, and that's an amazing thing to find. You can find that on a map. And so we have cover and we have clear cuts, and then the next thing I look for is creek crossings, which is just a pinch point or a funnel for deer to cross the creek or to cross a ditch. Some guys call these like a thermal hub. And so the best way I think I can explain this to you is where if you are walking on the very top of a ridge and you're walking down that ridge, and all of a sudden that ridge dips down into a valley. While you're walking down that ridge, it dips down to a valley. And when you get down to the valley where there's a creek down there or a ditch down there, there's another ridge that falls down into the valley, and then there's another ridge that falls down into the valley. If you find an area like that, those are really good because deer will use that to go down one hill and up the other side, because if the other sides of the hill are real steep, they might not use that as much, but at the end of the point of the ridge, a lot of times that's more gradual fall, and those bucks can go down. They can cross ridges there, and they can also go down and they scent check where other deer have crossed through there. And a lot of times, that bottom down there where those all are joined together, there can be scrapes down there and there can be rubs down there, and that makes for really good hunting. So that's what I look for on the map. And those are a lot of times those are pretty easy to find. So let's jump into the map and we'll look and see if we can find any of those things. Here's one of the public land pieces. This is just one part of it. I'm not going to show you the whole part because if there's other people that hunt in here, I don't want people on the internet finding out where this is and then going to this same spot. It just messes people up. I don't want to mess up the local people that hunt these areas. I don't even know if anybody hunts there. I've never been there. I just don't want other people knowing what I'm talking about. So first of all, this is just one little section of this deal, and this caught my attention. So the first thing, I always told you I look for cover, I look for clear cuts, and I look for creek crossings or thermal hubs. And so right here we have an unbelievable creek crossing or ditch crossing. You can see right here where this pin is. Okay, so where this pin is here, you have this pin, and as you can see from the north, this hill, it dumps down into this bottom. You have right here on the east, this hill dumps down into this bottom. From the south, this hill dumps down to this bottom. And from the west side, it is not as much. It's a little bit steeper going down, but all of these creek crossings all come together right here, and there's a big hub for all these. The reason why that's so important is that it's a pinch point, and a lot of deer, instead of diving right off the side of the hill, which they can do, but most of the time, they will come off one of these slopes that bring us down to this valley. And I would guess, and I would hope that when I go and I scout this, which we'll do, that hopefully down in this bottom, there's some good scrapes and there's some areas where we can see what's going on. So this is one of the areas that I for sure want to look into and that I found on the map on this public piece. I looked all around. This spot was my favorite spot because of this thermal hub or this creek crossing area right here. And the way this looks, it's probably not actual water running in these creeks. It's probably just dry ditches and that only has water in it when it rains a bunch, okay? Another thing that I love about this spot, as you can see on the east side here, there is some cedars or pines right here. You can see these green, and on this side. Now that's a lot thicker cover. Especially, I really like this north side because this north ridge, when the wind blows out of the south, it'll blow down here. And with this little bit of cover here, deer and bucks love to bed on the points of these ridges like this going down because they can watch down here in this crossing and they can see anything coming from this direction, and then the wind would be blowing over their back. And so this spot right here, I really like this area and like how that sets up, okay? All right, the next reason that I love this property is when you come up to this north and you slide up to the north here, you can see that the neighbor here, it looks like in the past he has planted something right here, and it looks like he has some ag up here. I don't know if this is a green food source or this is beans or what this is, but it looks like he's planted something. So that means that if he has a good chances that those deer come in here at night and then they come on this ridge up here at the top and bed in this stuff in the evenings. And so that makes it even more, that looks even more like a good spot to me that I really like, okay? So that's another reason why I really like this spot. So when you look at these public lands, you also want to look and see what the neighbors looks like, because the neighbor might have something that you can see where if the neighbors is all open and the public land is all woods, then a lot of times those deer will go there at the night and then they'll come back to the public in the day. So I'll look for that as well. Another reason why I like this spot is this hub of this property and this area of this property is about 2 miles from the parking, and you have to go over several hills. And so with that being said, it should be pretty good to stay away from people unless the neighbors are going onto it. So that's another big positive. So you're staying away from people. It looks like it's good as far as the landscape looks good, and there's some cover in there, so those all three, and there's water in there, and so all three of those things are really good setup for that. But you never know if it's good until you go look, so we're going to have to go look at it, and we're going to have to see. Alright guys, I made it to the property. Walking up the car here, and we're gonna head out. So let's see if we can find some good sign in this spot. I got my pack and got some cameras, so if we find
a good area we can put out a camera on a scrape or something like that. But we're going to start the long track in here. I'm going to make a big loop, and we'll see how many miles it is. I'm tracking the distance on here, and we'll see where it goes. But it should be good to try to find this new spot. So far it looks really good. It's pretty mountainous, and it looks like it's pretty rough terrain. I mean, not real rough, but it looks pretty good. I should, when I get back here, be able to get out of the way of where people go. So we'll start walking back and see if we can find some good sign. Guys, so this is the first little drainage, really the second little drainage that I've came to. And right here on the bottom of this hill, there's a huge scrape here that's been cleaned out. It's a big one, and everything's frozen, so I mean, you can't tell how fresh this stuff is. Everything looks old because everything's frozen. But basically you have this hill coming right out here from the southeast, and then you have this kind of drainage coming up and over, and there's this big bottom, and where this creek is down in this drainage and this ditch down here in this bottom, it's a real wide one, and it's kind of just a big round area. And right here I found the first big scrape, so this is a good spot to put a camera, and if I don't find anything better, I can put it on this scrape. But I'm gonna keep walking and go to the main hub that we scouted. So this is a good spot, and it's a lot closer to the car, to the parking, so might be something to check out on down the road. Well, I didn't go another 50, 60 yards. This ladder stand's set up on the side hill, this ridge, so, and I can tell by the straps and the tie rope and everything like that, it's fresh. This ain't old. If it has been here a long time, they redid it this year, so they've been hunting in here this year. So that's what happens when you're close to the parking. A lot of times you'll find these ladder stands in here. So, but he's in a good spot. It's really nice way this ridge comes off here and comes down and drops off, and he can see the whole valley. So it's a good spot. Well, these dogs are right down in that hub. They're right down at that crossing down. So, I've seen some rubs so far, but no scrapes. Looks like somebody cut a deer up down here. I don't know, I haven't found too much yet, but now I gotta figure out how to get out of here without these dogs following me. Alright guys, I found it. So I have these two ridges coming off on each side, and there's just a little indention in this one. but there's a this scrape here. I found a clean scrape with a big rub right next to it, and it goes high up in the air. And there's fresh droppings in it, and it comes off this one big ridge and sweeps down and comes down, and this is a big creek bottom. It's a lot bigger than what it looks on the map. I would say that it's 100 to 130 yards long down here in the bottom, in between all these ridges. And so there's not really an exact pinch point, but I knew if I searched around down here long enough, I'd find the area where they were crossing good and where they laid up a lot of sign. We got these scrapes, and then there's 3 rubs all around in this spot, and this is about the best spot down here that I've seen. And so I'm gonna go ahead and probably put my camera here, and we'll see if we can get any pictures down here in this creek crossing.
Alright guys, to wrap up this video, I was just going to tell you kind of what I like and what I don't like about the property. The thing I like is there's quite a bit of sign. I jumped probably 12 deer, so there's a lot of deer in there. And I can just tell that the deer are using that area. The negatives are I found 3 ladder stands. Now some of them I know are from the neighbors because they're just right over the fence pretty much, and I'm almost guaranteed the neighbors put those in. But you could tell people had been in there. Toward the back though, I didn't see very much people sign, so I'd say that'd be pretty good. But the number one negative that I don't like about that property is the access to get in there is really difficult. You have to go over several ridges, and it's not that the work to get back there is difficult, but it's because you just jump so many deer. Most of the deer, just trying to get to the back, I jumped them before I ever even got to the back. And so it's going to be hard to get back there, to hunt that several times without just blowing deer out every time. And the more you go in there and blow deer out, the less, the worse that property would probably get. So there's not very many ways to get back there without jumping deer. And so I don't like that about that property. But the camera's set up and it's been taking pictures. So hopefully we'll get a picture of a good buck, and we'll try to make a game plan and see what happens.